Hi guys. It's Lauren. I'm coming to you on a Friday, early evening, right after work. And I don't really have a specific plan of what to talk to you about today, but except this experience that I've had today of having a lot of trouble focusing, brain fog, craving coffee in the worst way, and then I ended up drinking just the littlest bit, and it made my head feel like it was kind of in a vice. It made it worse. Coffee is just such a hard thing, and I wonder, I'm guessing a lot of you out there could relate to this, because if you have chronic fatigue or adrenal fatigue, you're tired all the time, and so you would want coffee. And if you're like me, it was like gold. I mean, to me, coffee for years and years, and for years I also was on Vyvanse. I was misdiagnosed with ADD, and just part of this illness was brain symptoms, and the doctor told me it was ADD, so I started taking Vyvanse, and oh man, was it amazing for energy. And then on top of that, I was addicted to coffee. And God, it was just my everything. And I felt like I couldn't live without it because I was tired all the time. I mean, how many of you can relate to this? I'd love to know. Please tell me that you relate to this, because I mean, how many of us in this world, even who haven't been diagnosed with adrenal fatigue or chronic fatigue, how many of us are just exhausted? Well, there's a whole other level of exhaustion. When you've had chronic fatigue or adrenal fatigue, it's like there's exhausted and there's exhausted, There's tired and there's tired. I call it bone tired and bone cold. I like to talk about my bones, I guess. But you know what I mean? It's just like this very deep, such a deep kind of cold and a deep kind of tired that's difficult to explain. It's much deeper than when you just haven't had enough sleep, or you're ill, like you've got a virus. It's deeper than that. It's like your soul is tired. Do you know what I mean? So for me, and probably a lot of you, my gosh, just any kind of stimulant is just what I used to live for, and it still nags at me. So there were years, I had gastritis back in 2015, and I had to give up coffee. I had to, and Vyvanse. And then later I discovered that I didn't actually have ADD, so I never started that up again. Thank goodness, because it was wreaking havoc for me in other ways, for my adrenals. Before I knew I had adrenal fatigue. So it still calls at me. I gave up coffee for a long time, for years and years. And I ached for it, and so I tried black tea, too acidic for my gastritis. So I tried green tea, and I was on green tea for a while, and then just started to be like I needed more and more. It just wasn't enough. It wasn't doing enough. And I didn't know I had adrenal fatigue, so looking back, I can see what was happening is that my body was telling me you cannot use caffeine anymore. It's harming you. And it still happens. So, even to this day, when I have more energy than I had for years, it still calls to me, because that buzz, if you have fatigue, bone fatigue, like I like to call it, for years and years and years, the feeling of being energized, it feels like you've been in a coma and you're just all of a sudden alive. That's how it feels to me. I've got energy, I've got physical energy, I've got mental energy, although it is not good for concentration because it puts you in a sympathetic state. And so being in a sympathetic state is really good for quick brain activity, but you know, we were designed for that to help us get out of like a life-threatening situation, getting away from. Everybody uses the example of a tiger. I mean, how often are people running into tigers? But it's not really the type of state that is ideal for complex problem solving. So, you know, any kind of job these days, like any kind of desk job where you're doing complex, you know, you're writing some document, you're doing something complex with your mind that needs like critical skills, like analyzing skills. Sympathetic nervous system is not your friend. But it feels like before you get into it, feels like it's like, well, if I just had energy, I could do this work. And then you have energy, and then you just can't. All you want to do is look this way, look that way. Oh, wait, I have that to do. I have this to do. Wait, this is. Oh, wait, why I feel like cleaning? You know, it's just. I don't know. Why does it still call to me? I mean, I know that it's not good for me. My gosh. And of course, so I gave it up for years for gastritis. And then I tried drinking it for a very brief period, and then the adrenal issues started. So then I didn't drink it for 2 years. And the crazy thing to me now is like, why am I having this problem? Because I know that I actually have more energy when I don't drink coffee for a long time, and I sync my circadian rhythm with the sun, and I get up at the same time and I go to bed at the same time fairly early, and I do all the things I do. I eat right, you know, whole foods, meat and vegetables, positive mindset, gratitude of the moment, you know, embracing life, not obsessing with this do. I mean, that is the way to illness real quick. And I guess that's what it is. So why I've been craving coffee so badly lately is that I've slipped. And this is part of the journey. There are famous sayings about, you know, you teach the thing that you need to learn the most. And the thing I struggle with the most is my mind. Because my mind is always wanting to pull me to the future. You know, when I was really depressed in college, my mind was always trying to pull me to the past. And all my regrets. And all the things I wish I had done differently. The wish I had, you know, all the regrets, and always pulling me back here, back in the past. Once I got out of depression, it moved right to the future. It was like future. What I'm gonna be like this, when I'm gonna do this, then I'll be happy, you know, that kind of stuff. That when I accomplish this, when I get here, that I'm gonna be happy. My mind is always trying to, well, when do I get to just be in the moment? What is it that makes me, and tell me if this happens to you, why do I have such an aversion to staying in the moment? Yeah, there are things in my life that are not the way I want them to be. Okay. And when that happens, this is so important. You know, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. This is so important for healing from adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue. It's this ability to love the present moment, no matter what your present moment feels like. And Joe Dispenza talks about how, you know, the time to do have the thing that you want to have is actually the time when you don't have it, when you crave it the most. So if you crave a loving connection with somebody, you not just want, but like need, like a visceral, obsessive need, must have that, must have that. That's actually the moment, or maybe it's not I must have that, but it's like there's just depression that you don't have it. Then that's actually the moment in your life when it's most important to learn how to be happy and content and full and whole without that. And when I was learning that, this was one of the first things that started moving me in the right direction, healing from adrenal fatigue, because I took that to mean that in this misery, in this, to me, in my life, in my perspective, it was the absolute worst thing I could have imagined happening to my being. Being trapped in a body that couldn't move or think, that couldn't act, couldn't love, couldn't feel joy. All I could do was get through the most basic parts of your day. And I don't mean basic does not even include making your bed. That's too much. That is too exhausting for me. It's enough to shower, and sometimes I couldn't. Shower, go to the bathroom, drink water, eat, and keep my child safe. It was like, and fed. Going to the grocery store was like this giant, every week was like this giant feat that I had to pull off somehow. So in this misery, what I considered my own personal, I keep wanting to use the word abject misery for me. Just absolute misery for me personally. That was the moment that I had to love my life and love myself. I needed to learn how to embrace that moment and somehow feel whole and feel gratitude for what I did have. Gratitude for the people, the loving people in my life. Gratitude for the health that I did have. Gratitude for the things that I could do. That was so difficult. That was so difficult to learn. But you know what? When I did it, I started getting better. I started stabilizing. It was like this foundational piece that I have to have that. If I don't have that, then I can't get better. So I don't know if it was really like that I was getting better or if it was just that, it was this prerequisite in order to get better. And then the other things that I was doing were also, helping me get better. Because, and I say it that way because I'm 2 years, 4 months out of my worst, of when I started to get better, or when I started to stabilize. And what I'm finding, so in the last month, I would say my health has deteriorated. And it's so difficult to see when it's happening. Because you can't see the long term until the long term has happened, right? So you can't see, so when it's just a week, sometimes have a more stressful week, or you just have a lot to do and you get consumed in what you're doing. For me, it takes about a month for me to really see a trend. Like if I look back and see that I'm worse than I was a month ago, a month is a good barometer for me to judge how I'm doing, because there usually isn't an entire month of just circumstantial. Sometimes there is, but in my life, it's usually not an entire month that has a circumstantial shift that is the cause. It's so, I'm sitting here, and just in the last couple days, I've realized I've gotten worse. My health has deteriorated in the last month, maybe month and a half, and then it gets fuzzy. I don't know exactly, but it's been weeks. And so then the question is, why? What's shifted? And if you ask other people to help give you some answers, or try to talk to them about this, they'll give the typical answers that we all think about. This is what I always want to think about. And it's only been through this process that I've learned it's not true. So I actually heard this brilliant thing that Dean Graziosi said in an inner circle training. He said, for every problem, there are two answers. There are two possible answers: an upstream and a downstream. Or I should say downstream and an upstream, just because downstream is what I want to cover first. So it's that downstream answer is, so the problem is, for example, my health has deteriorated for the last month. Why? There are two possible answers. There's downstream, and that's the tactical stuff, the strategies. What are the external things that have happened? It's the external. So you could call it either one. You could call it downstream, you could call it external. So what are the external things in my life that have shifted? What are all the reasons? Work's been more stressful. I've had more deadlines. I've had less time to do work, and so it's been stressing me more. I've been exercising less because I've had less time. I've had, you can list all those things. And there's some truth to them, because all those external things are important for health. But you know what I've discovered on this journey? The internal things are just far, 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 far outweigh the external. Every single time. Every time. So, in the the upstream. So what's the upstream? The upstream is what's going on in here. What's going on in here? Because this was the root of my illness. This connected to my body, or I should say disconnected. Disconnected in a conscious sense, but connected in an unconscious way that old beliefs from old wounds were influencing my mind in such a profound way, and I couldn't see it at all. And I think this is what happens to everybody. And definitely, I believe everybody with chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue need to look at this. I'm not saying I do not have the credentials or anything to say that everybody with adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue, the root cause of their illness are past wounds haunting them that we haven't dealt with, that we haven't felt and moved through. I'm not going to say that's true for everybody, but I will say everybody with adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue, or actually anybody with any kind of chronic illness, I'm going to say you need to look at it. You need to look into it, because it might be the needle mover, the thing that's holding you back. I can tell you from personal experience. I mean, How long have you been on this journey? How long have you been trying to figure out the root of your chronic illness? And it's not your fault, because everybody out there is telling you to stay out there in the external. Stay out here. You want to do, you want to do lemon water. You want to do a certain amount of water every day. Stay salt in your water. Then you want this kind of food, that kind of food. You want to do a grounding mat. You want to do a sauna. You want to do, get outside every day. Put your feet on the ground. Take a walk on with your bare feet every day. Hug a tree. There are a million external things that you need to, that are part of the recovery process. But you know what? I believe all these things how much of these things are benefiting our spirit just as much as our physical body? But besides that, you can do, my experience is you do all the things, and you can do it month after month, year after year. You can do all the things. And some things move the needle a tiny bit more than other things. Intermittent fasting. There are a million things. EMF pendants, EMF protection, all over. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. You can spend all your time and so much mental energy doing all the physical things. Red light glasses. There are a million. There are just a million. I mean, if I rattled them all off, we'd be here all day. And I did all the things. And after a year and a half of doing all the things, I was this much better. My adrenals were stable. Ish. But I had so long to go. After a year and a half, I was better. I was stable. I was not getting worse. And that was huge. That was a huge step. But if I was actually improving, was hard to say, honestly. How much was I actually improving? Because I could look back at a month, that's my barometer now, but I was looking back at a month, I couldn't barely tell a difference. I couldn't. Maybe 3 months. So, and of course, as the recovery process goes, the barometer changes, the time barometer, I mean. Because when you're really bad, it's going to be longer. And then as you improve, it's going to be shorter, that you can look back. Where I am now, I can look back at a month and I can tell positive or negative change. That wasn't the case after a year and a half of recovery. And then I started on the wounds. I started diving into the wounds, getting some of those wounds up and felt and out. Really felt those wounds and moved them through me and eventually made peace with them. I'm sure I'm not done with it. I'm not that naive. I wish I were. But this is the process, and it's like an onion layer. They're like onion layers, and the hardest one I need a better analogy than that, because it's like this hard outer shell. The outer layer is the hardest to chip into. And then once you get inside, it's going to be easy. It's going to be easier to come up and out, and it's going to be smaller. That doesn't mean it's not going to suck a lot, but it'll get easier. So, once I started in the emotional work, the internal work, and this is the upstream or internal, however you want to say it, that's the answer that you have to look for. You have to. Even if it's not your root cause, just to look deep into it, really work into it, because it could be your biggest needle mover. And most people are not telling you to go there. They're telling you all these, and like how many, oh, it's just like, it's maddening because, and so saddening, because if you stay, what if the answer for you is internal, and you're trying for years, decades, or your whole life on the external things, and the results that you get are minimal. I say no. I say no. I'm not doing that. I'm going to keep going into this internal, no matter how much it sucks. And for me, I have this innate repulsion and aversion to going deep in here, which is fascinating because I'm much more fascinated with other people's internal lives than their external lives. But when it's me, and I know the things that are, I don't really know, but I do know. I know a little, and just enough to not want to see it. And then, so I just, I've built, as we all have, all of these little, I think I have heard an analogy, I think it was Jennifer McLean calls them walnuts. I think it was her that she calls them these walnuts. And that's a good analogy because the outer shell is so freaking hard. Because that's what happens over time. It turns into a walnut. When you've been suppressing something for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it becomes a hard nut to crack. But once you crack it, and you can look in there, and you can see, okay, wait, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I can feel this. I can deal with this. Or maybe it's more like the suffering of this illness is worse than looking into this dark, ugly hole that I don't want to, but the illness is worse. And that's what's happened to me. I was never going to look in there. Never. I was never going to look in there. Unless this had happened to me. I'm convinced of it. This was the only way my soul could have gotten my attention. Smart soul. But of course it's your soul, so it knows how to deal with you. I just wonder how many other people also have a soul that thinks like mine. Because they have a body that's like mine, and a mind like mine. No, I'm not going to go there. I was going to start saying self-deprecating things, and I'm not going to go there. Willful. Unwilling to go in those deep, dark places. Willfulness can be a good thing. It can also make life challenging in other ways. So, the internal. Okay, so what Dean puts it, there's a two. So what he says is there are two answers to every problem. I love this. But I think for me, I'm going to change. He says there's a downstream and an upstream. He's fun. He really likes like fishing analogies and stuff. But for me, just to make it really clear here, I would like to say, so there are two answers to every problem. One external and one internal. And I can venture a guess, if you live in this society, in this world today, you're focused on the external and not the internal. So, look inside. Because what I'm seeing once again, proven to me once again, as I look back at this last month and see what's gone wrong. Why am I worse? Not significantly worse, but I know it and I can feel it and I don't like it. Because I was doing pretty good in March. But not in February. Okay, so then I'm going to think, that's a little too hard for me to remember. And I've got, but my bet would be the problem was in here. It was a mindset problem. And it was keeping me in a state of trying to not feel the things that need to come up. Because this month, there are things trying to come up. It's all the stuff in my sacral chakra that I've been talking about. And I've been having a particularly hard time letting them come up. Even with everything that I know. And that's what's frustrating to me. All this knowledge I have up here, that's what it gets, the mind and the brain. It feels like the mind and the brain are in conflict. Because I have so much knowledge in my brain, but my mind is more everybody's mind. And you have this. You have plenty of knowledge in your brain. I have no doubt that you have been seeking answers. No doubt that you have. And I'm sure you know a lot. But what about your mind? Do you struggle with your mind like I do? My mind seems to have a perpetual yearning to be busy. And as soon as it comes out of my mouth, I know what that is. I know exactly what that is. Why does it want to be busy all the time? To keep the feelings down. It's the way it's always been for me. Can you relate to this? If you really think about it, so not controlling, I don't like that word for the mind, but, releasing the pressure. It's like a pressure cooker up there. Releasing the pressure to run. And doing so, making it safe in the present moment. And the way to make it safe is to feel the gratitude of this moment. Now, even as I'm saying this, there's a part of my mind that's saying, well, what about all the stuff that you have to do? How are you going to get it done if you don't have the running list and you're always like trying to problem solve but I just need to loosen the reins. I'm going to loosen the reins on things that I feel like I have to do. Maybe I don't actually have to. Maybe that's a self-inflicted thing. Because I haven't really solidified for myself the way that I need to structure my life. To both get things done and keep healing. It's been this tug back and forth, and for when I really needed to heal, it was all healing, and I just let go of everything that I felt like I needed to do. My to-do list vanished. I would do the absolute bare minimum. Something comes in the mail and you're going to get in big trouble if you don't answer. I got to do those things. Got to pay my bills. But everything else went to the curb. It had to. I had no choice. But as I've gotten better, it's been this push-pull. This push forward with my health when I'm happy and content and grateful and just filled with gratitude and contentment, while I also focus on the things that bring my health, movement and food and everything else, and happiness and fun and play. But then as soon as I get stressed, as soon as I have a lot to do, as soon as I feel some momentum to get things done, and I stay in that place for a long time, that's when my health deteriorates. And then I have to refocus realign with the being. So really, it's all a push-pull, a tug-of-war between doing and being. There's some, I'm not far from it. I don't think. I think I'm on the cusp, but there's something that I think I'm missing. Or it's just that I have more to heal that's coming up, trying to come up, and if I just let that come up and heal, maybe that would do it. Maybe I could balance. I don't know. I'm gonna have to come back to you on this because I have to try things out and see what happens. This is probably gonna be sort of a challenge for me throughout the rest of my life, Well, it'll be something that I have to learn how to put things in place to keep me balanced. So, is it just a matter of putting time every day into being and putting time every day into doing? Probably. That's probably the answer. But why do I have such turmoil about this? I just need to do it. So this is what I'm working on. I'll let you know how that's going in the next one. So, let me know if this was helpful to you. And if you struggle with the same kind of things. But I'll tell you one thing for sure. One thing there's for certain. I know with every ounce of my being is that looking inside is essential. It's an essential step to any kind of chronic illness. I don't care what kind of chronic illness it is. Look inside to see if there are internal things that need to heal, whether or not it's the root cause of your illness. What if you find something that moves the needle from here to there? I mean, amazing. What if you all find something that moves the needle from here to here? Isn't it still worth it? Because nobody else is, not nobody, but most people are saying, look outside. So come inside and look in there and look deep. Are there things in there? Wounds, particularly from early life. Are there wounds that need to be healed? Okay, that's all for today. I so hope this was helpful. And I hope you have a beautiful day. All right, bye.